Hello students and welcome to the e-learning program initiated by Sri Gyan Manjari Vidyapeeth for the students of Standard 10, in which we are learning the subject of social science. Students, from the previous few lectures we have started with chapter number 13 of the geography section of the syllabus. Let us take a quick recap of what we have learned so far. Students, this is the fourth lecture, continuous fourth lecture for chapter number 13. Name of the chapter is Manufacturing Industries. So far, we have learned about, first thing is what you can call an industry, where industry means the process in which man can change the natural resources into usable conditions according to his intellectual, according to the culture in which he is, and according to the economic capacity of that person. That is called the industry. Then we learned about the importance of industry today. Industries can be called as the backbone of the economy of any country because as many as industries you have, that much more products you will be having, which can be consumed inside the country and can be sold outside the country to get the rich foreign exchange that we need. We also have learned at the same time that agriculture products are also uh, exported, but agriculture produce, they give a very small return compared to the industrial products, right? So industrial development started very late in India, that we learned. Yes, because of the British policies, we were not able to develop so much when elsewhere in all over the world the countries were developing because industrial revolution happened and their countries took benefit of that. We were under a foreign rule and we had to work according to the norms and conditions, policies, laws, acts that were prevailing under those days, under the circumstances under the foreign rule. And so we were, we can say, handicapped, or we were just helpless in one way because we had a foreign rule. So industries did strive, but somewhere just before we got the independence and thereafter quite a lot. So in India, industrial development started quite late. India was quite rich and prosperous in its industry right from the Indus Valley civilization, Harappan civilization, even before that, because India is a vast country, quite a huge country with lots of mineral resources, fertile land. So India was quite prosperous. It was quite rich, and people from far and wide came to buy things made in India. And so we already had an idea that we can make bulk production of the things that are quite in demand, high. For example, the uh, vessels, clay vessels, metal vessels, later on the precious stones, semi-precious stones, the uh, gold work, iron work, silver work, all these type of works were quite famous. Inlay work was famous. So in that way, India was quite rich and prosperous because it had its industries quite long time ago. Enlist few of the industries of India and their setups. Some of these industries, they got set up during the British era. Some of them survived, some of them had to close down because of the British policies. So in that, the first charcoal based iron melting industry started in 1853, but it was closed down due to the British policies. The first cotton mill was started in Mumbai in 1853. A jute mill was established in 1855 near Risra, yeah, Kolkata. 74, 1874, we got our first blast furnace for iron and steel industry, which was set up in Kulti in West Bengal. And in 1907, Jamshedji Tata set up Tata Iron and Steel Company, in short known as TISCO, which showed us new way for industry. Now, next, we learned about the textile industry in India was completely ruined by the British policies, and that we have learned so far. Now we also learned the classification of industry based on something. So if we have industries, classification of industries, first we can classify them according to human labor, ownership, and the source of raw material. If we are considering human resources, then it can be large scale or small scale, depending upon the number. If the number is extensive, quite huge, then it is called a large scale. If it is small, it's called a small scale. Ownership, it can be completely privately owned industry, or it can be completely government owned industry. Nowadays we also have semi-government or semi-government, wherein 50% is held by the government, 50% is held by the uh, private industry. Then we have cooperative. Well, lots of people in that same profession get together and set up an industry. For example, Amul. Then source of raw material, that can be divided only into two. Either it will be agricultural based or it will be mineral based. Then we learnt about all the agro industries, important agro industries in India that are based completely on agriculture. The first one comes to our mind is cotton textile industry. Please remember that is a complete 4-mark question. Yes. Then we learned about jute industry, silk textile, synthetic textile, sugar industry, and paper industry. All of them are listed below agricultural based industry, that is agro based industry. Then we started with mineral based industry, in which we learned about iron and steel industry. In agricultural based industry, if cotton is the very most important question, then in mineral based industries, iron and steel is one of the most important question in this chapter. Now, let us continue with our today's topic, that is going ahead with the mineral based industries. The next one after iron and steel is aluminium. As as iron ore is usually found all over the earth, most of the countries they hold uh, iron ore in small and big quantity, in lesser or larger quality also, the better and the not so good. But iron is available all over the world in most of the countries. Next available will be aluminium. We have huge mines, huge regions which produce the uh, ore of aluminium. Aluminium refining is quite an important industry of India. We have learned earlier also, aluminium के ore को bauxite बोलते हैं, right? So it is extracted from bauxite ore. The ore of aluminium, just like iron, so it's not called iron ore. Aluminum ore नहीं बोलते. It is got from the ore called bauxite. Now, these are the properties of aluminium which gives lots of importance to the metal that is derived from bauxite, that is aluminium. First thing is aluminium is light in weight. So, satellites, aeroplanes, all these are made up of mostly of aluminum, because it is not only strong but it is very light in weight. Aluminum vessels are also made for cooking purpose, right? So aluminum is light in, that is one of the foremost quality of aluminum. Next, it is quite strong and sturdy. Next is malleable. So, light in weight, strong, malleable, conductor of electricity, and it is completely rust proof. Yes, if you take iron, iron gets rusted. If you take copper, it gets eroded. Right? Many other metals, they react with air and water, and they, in one way or another, its effect is found. Whereas on aluminum, that sort of effect is not found. It is completely rust free. So it becomes quite valuable. Next, it is available in quite a good quantity, so it's not that cheap, but then also it's malleable means it can be turned into into sheets and rods. And smooth conductor of electricity. In the earlier days, we used to work with electricity or uh, electronics. Both of them, wires were made out of copper. But as copper is available less in this under the ground, so it became quite costly. So people started switching to aluminum and replaced copper. So nowadays you have electrical wiring, etc., all made up of aluminum because it's a very smooth conductor of electricity. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are 5 properties of aluminum which should be in your answer. Other minerals. Now, this is yet another property. Other minerals are also added to aluminum to improve its properties further. So, aluminum has yet another very, very good property, that is, it can mix with other metals and make very good alloys. Yes, for example, iron, it rusts, but aluminum is rust free. So, we can mix iron and aluminum so that the property of iron getting the rust can be controlled and we can have a very good metal. So in that way, aluminum can be mixed with lots of, it's ready to mix with the other metals. So this is the sixth property that it has. Yes, that it can be added to other uh, minerals to get alloys and it can work perfectly well. Now, uses of aluminum. Aluminum is used in making cars, trains, aeroplanes, machines, etc. Now, uh, car, it's made out of, lots of its body parts are made out of aluminum, that makes the weight of the car less, right? In the same way, trains, inside interior of the trains, it's made out of aluminum, thus reducing weight over there also. Aeroplane, uh, if it is light in weight, it can easily fly in the air, right? So lots of machines are small machines basically are made up of aluminum, right? So aluminum is used in lots for making cars, trains, aeroplanes, and machines. Now, this is the, not, you cannot say it's a negative point, but while refining aluminum, we need lots and lots of electricity. So, aluminum refining centers have to be located somewhere near a multi-purpose project where it can get constant electricity. So, about 40 to 50% of the cost of producing aluminum goes in electricity. So, aluminum refinery is set up at such places which have two things. One is bauxite and another is hydroelectricity available easily, so that uninterrupted electricity reaches the refinery very quickly, and same way bauxite is also near, so the cost is cut. And because mostly the cost is taken up in uh, because it uses refinery, aluminum refinery uses aluminum sorry aluminum refinery uses electricity like very much. So 40 to 50% of the cost of making aluminum goes in electricity, right? So both these things should be quite near. Factories producing aluminum are established in, that means Orissa is the largest producer of aluminum. Next comes West Bengal, then Kerala, then Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu. These are the main states that produce aluminum in India, starting with Orissa. Orissa is the largest producer of aluminum, followed by West Bengal. Kerala comes at third place. Next, we come to a very important another mineral, which is copper refining industry. Yes. Now, each and every mineral has to be refined to separate the impurities so that we get the pure metal from the ore. So copper has many important properties. Yes, please note down, it should be in your answer. First thing, copper we know is a very, very good conductor of electricity. It can be mixed well with other metals very easily, producing alloys. So this is a very good quality or property of copper. Next, it is very useful metal for mankind. Copper is used in electrical industry. This is the third one because it's a very good conductor of electricity. So it is used in electrical and electronics in making refrigerators, the tubings that allow the passing of the coolant in refrigerators and air conditions. Here, the tubing is made out of copper. Air conditioners, automobiles, lots of lubricants are there, right? And lots of parts, tubings, etc. are made out of copper for better wear. Radiators especially use copper a lot. Radiators, because lots of engines like cars, trucks, etc., they are water cooled. आगे रेडिएटर में पानी डालना पड़ता है, which circulates in the engine and keeps it cooled. So it is also air, it's air cooled plus it is water cooled also. So especially the fins of the radiators, they are made out of copper. Domestic utensils, we have copper based, rest may be aluminum, but the base will be copper. So only copper or copper plus aluminum utensils are made from copper. So these are the important uses, properties of copper. Now, where is copper refining done? Now, very important to remember, first copper refining unit of India set up by ICC, that is Indian Copper Corporation at Ghatshila. Very, very important. You should know where Ghatshila is on the map. Yes, very important place to mark. Yes, its maps are already given in your material, so please have a look at it. Ghatshila in Jharkhand, please mark it in Bihar or West Bengal and then mark it. In 1972, another important development. 1972, ICC was handed over to Hindustan Copper Limited. Nowadays, the complete output of copper is with HCL, that is Hindustan Copper Limited. ICC was its first name. Then it was handed over to Hindustan Copper Limited. Today, copper is produced by private sector also. Even then, we are not able to meet our demand, and so we have to import copper. The demand for copper is quite high because lots of refrigerators, ACs, industrial cooling units, etc. use lots and lots of copper. We make lots of wires out of copper. Electric industry, electronic industry, they heavily use uh, copper. Second and thirdly, engines, that is maybe railway engine, uh, car engine, or all the road transport engines, they use copper extensively. So copper is quite high in demand. The main use of copper is in the cooking industry, right? Utensil making. So a very high demand of copper is there, but we have a very limited supply of copper in India. So most of the time we have to export, we have to import copper from other countries so that we can adjust to the demand. Next, very important industry is chemical industry. Very, very important. Chemical industry is quite an important industry for India. These industries produce two types of chemicals. One is organic chemical, one is inorganic chemical. Organic chemical we get from vegetation, inorganic from under the ground by lots of minerals we make the chemicals. Industries that produce organic chemicals are mainly petrochemical industries, organic chemicals. Now, this winter has just set in, and we use lots of cream, we use lots of Vaseline. All of that is petro based. That means we get petroleum. Uh, Through the help of distillation, we separate petrol, diesel, kerosene, etc. In the same way, we get lots of byproducts by this distillation. One of the byproducts of this distillation is going after the chemical industry. So, uh, crude oil basically made with the remains of animals and plant kingdom that got buried millions of years ago. So, what happens is that is an organic product, right? So, industries that produce organic chemicals, petrochemical industries. Now, this is the definition also, and for you to understand also. A chemical substance obtained from petroleum is called petrochemical substance. As we learned earlier also, that in distillation process of crude oil, we get grease. That is one of the lubricant also. It's quite thicky, and it helps in keeping the uh, bearings, etc., in some oily state so that the friction can be controlled, it can be made smooth because of the presence of grease, right? So in the same way, uh, lots of cream, etc. Their base is the product that we get from petroleum. So a chemical substance obtained from petroleum is called petrochemical. So a petrochemical industry, now we come to, in this chemical industry we have both, right? Organic and inorganic. Now first we are dealing with organic. So petroleum we consider as organic because it is made from the remains of plant kingdom and animal kingdom, right? So petrochemical industry is an industry which produces products using chemicals derived from petroleum. Petrochemicals or organic chemicals are used in producing, first thing, artificial fiber. Yes, nylon hair. So nylon is manufactured in the factory, right? It is using the base from the petrochemical industry, right? So artificial fibers, artificial rubber is also produced from the chemicals derived from petrochemicals. Plastic goods. Plastic is a byproduct that we get from crude oil. Color. In order to produce color, chemicals are used. Chemicals and other medicines. Yes, lots of these chemicals can be used as medicines also. So these are the uses of the chemical industry. What it produces and what where is artificial fiber. Second thing is artificial rubber. Third thing is plastic goods. Fourth thing is color. And fifth and sixth. So you get things that are made from chemicals, especially organic chemicals. We have artificial fiber, artificial rubber, plastic goods, color, chemicals, medicine, all of them are made from petrochemicals. That is organic chemicals. Now, these industries, because they are petrochemical based, right? Because they are based on petroleum, so they are petrochemical based, and so they have to be situated somewhere near the petroleum refinery. So these industries are generally set up near oil refineries and petrochemical centers. India has an important position in the world in this. In insecticide industry, we produce a lot of amount of insecticide which we uh, have a lot of consumption in the country also, and it is exported outside also. Insecticide is used to spray when the crop is near about to get ready, so that insects don't harm it, the insects stay away from it, and we get a healthy crop. So insecticide, lots of chemicals are used over there to make it. This is yet another use of the organic chemicals, that insecticide is petrochemical. Gujarat leads in the country in the chemical industry. These are the important places. Chemical industry mark किया है, तो you have to mark Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Ankleshwar, Bharuch. Yes, etc. लिखा है, but you remember these four. These are the important four chemical industry centers in Gujarat, because Gujarat leads the country in chemical production and industry. Now we have yet another thing, chemical fertilizer industry. Chemical industry is different in that we have two types, organic and inorganic. We have studied more about organic. There is just a mention of the inorganic one, right? Now we come to chemical fertilizer industry. First chemical fertilizer industry of factory of India was established. Please remember this, very very important. 1906, Ranipat, Tamil Nadu. Please mark these three things. First chemical fertilizer industry was set up in India in Ranipat in 1906. Ranipat is in Tamil Nadu. The development of chemical industry started when FCI, that is Fertilizer Corporation of India, started its factory at. Now this is yet another one, Sindri. It's marked in your map given in the material, so no difficulty in finding it, right? But Sindri and Ranipat, both of them are very important centers for chemical fertilizer industry. So Fertilizer Corporation of India started its factory at Sindri in, and after that chemical fertilizer industry started developing. Chemical industry is highly concentrated in Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Punjab and Kerala. These are the main centers, or you can say the main states producing chemical fertilizer, in which Gujarat leads. Right, in Gujarat, the factories producing chemical fertilizers, they are established in the Kallol, Kandla, Hajira, Bharuch, Vadodara. Apart from there, there are lots of other places producing large and small amount of chemical fertilizers. Next, we come to plastic industry. There are practically countless applications of plastic. Plastic is used everywhere nowadays, right? From a small पिन का जो टॉप होता है वो प्लास्टिक का आता है जो बोर्ड में हम लगाते हैं, राइट? सो right from a pen to anything, lots of use of plastic is done. So there is a constant rise in demand also, and raw material for plastic also. Plastic, one of the main drop, which is completely waterproof and to any mold. Yes, that is a very good quality or a property of plastic. First thing is it is non-biodegradable, right? And it is rust proof also, wear and tear aata hai zyada, but it is completely waterproof and it can fit into any mold. That means you just have to make a mold and be sure that plastic is going to fit in it. Due to such wide use and excellent properties, plastic industry is also known as, very very important, sunrise industry. Why is it known as sunrise industry? Because of the multiple use of plastic in the way in which it can be used. It can virtually fit in every place, right? And everywhere there is a use of plastic. Yes, you buy a laptop, plastic is used over there. You buy, say, stereo system, lots of plastic is used over there, right? Take the garden furniture that you might be having at home, chairs, tables, you'll have made up of plastic. Yes, you'll have plastic handles many places, right? Doorknobs, windows. So there's such a lot of that you cannot just, it is scopeless, right? You cannot imagine the scopes to which plastic can be used. So it's called a sunrise industry. It is used in, now these are the places, these are the things where plastic is used, and you got to remember it. Yes, packing chemicals, because plastic doesn't react with chemicals, so you can pack chemicals in plastic. So it is used in packing plastics. Can be used in packing textiles, because it is waterproof, so can be kept safe. Building construction, plastic is used, for example switchboards है, tube light के जो है, lots of places plastic is used. Vehicle manufacturing, lots of parts of vehicles are made out of plastic. Electronic industry, maximum use of it is there. Now, which are the important centers for producing plastic? First is Delhi, that means Delhi comes at number one, followed by Mumbai, then Kolkata, Bengaluru, Vadodara, Vapi, Kanpur, Coimbatore, and Chennai. These are the important. So, in short, four mega cities, that is Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai. At these three places are there. Just have to remember a few one. That is Vadodara, Vapi, both of them in Gujarat, Kanpur in UP, Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. Of course, Chennai is also there. So these are the important states and cities producing plastic. Next, we come to cement industry. Very, very important industry where construction is concerned. Cement is considered as a large-scale industry. Cement is the base material for construction. That means you produce roads, dams, bridges, etc., houses, whatever. For construction purpose, whatever you do, cement is the main thing. So it's a base material for all the construction activities. India ranks second. Very, very important to remember that China leads the world in cement production. After China, India is the largest producer of cement in the world. India produces kitna? Approximately 6% of world cement production. Each and every country produces cement so that it doesn't have to depend on other countries, because as iron is the backbone for the country, same way iron and steel also becomes the backbone for the economy of a country. Same way cement is also considered as a very important industry for a country economically, because if you are not producing cement, you will have to buy it from outside. That means it's going to be costly. All your infrastructural work, the cost is going to go up because you are buying cement from outside. So India not only satisfies the local demand, that is demand produced in India, but it produces enough so that it can export and earn rich foreign exchange. And very proud to say that India produces 6% of the total cement production in the world. Now, what are the minerals that are added? What are the ingredients for making cements? Limestone, necessary, the main thing. Then comes coal, gypsum, bauxite, that is the ore of aluminum. Clay is also used, etc. These are the raw materials needed for producing cement. All of that is mixed up and then crushed and mixed up made in a powdered form. The raw materials of cement, and hence the cement, both of them are quite heavy. For example, the limestone. Say limestone is the main requirement for producing cement. Limestone, because it's a rock, it's quite heavy. So transportation cost, if the limestone and the cement factory, they are situated quite far away from each other, then the cost of bringing that limestone to the factory goes up too high, and cement produce will be quite highly priced. So raw materials of the cement and the cement manufacturing unit both should be situated quite nearby, because both of them are heavy in weight. So cement factories are located where raw material is available easily and in abundance. In Gujarat, we are sitting on a huge plate of limestone. So in Gujarat, you find limestone maximum, and so you have lots of factories producing cement. Gujarat cement industry has developed quite well. Names are given, not necessary. Now the second most important question of this part, that is transport equipment industry, in which railway stands foremost. You should know where railway engines are made, you should know where railway coaches are made, tracks are made, right? So these are some of the important things to keep in mind. Transport equipment industry, the first one we learn is railway, then we'll learn about roadways also, waterways also. Indian Railways itself manufactures. That means Indian Railway, first of all, it's a public company. That means it belongs wholly to the government. Now, because the government is handling the railways constantly need more and more engines, more and more compartments, more and more bogies to transport the goods. So containers to it. So it has to produce by depending on private sector, they will have to pay more. So railways, right from the beginning, it has established all the establishments or units for producing whatever things the railway needs. For example, tracks, railway makes it themselves. Uh, Railway engines, then Indian Railways or the government has established at various places factories producing railway engines. It needs compartment, right? So compartment making industries or units have been set up by the government themselves. So Indian Railways itself the work necessary to run the trains. This includes two, three things: railway engines, passenger coach, goods, etc. That means, for example, if you take रेलवे का जो सिग्नल सिस्टम है, रेलवे के अलावा कहीं काम में नहीं आता, ना घर में काम आता है, ना रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट में, ना वाटर ट्रांसपोर्ट में, ना एयर ट्रांसपोर्ट में, कहीं नहीं आता, वो सिर्फ रेलवे में काम में आता है, राइट? सो इन दैट वे दैट इलेक्ट्रिकल signaling system, then railway manages it on its own, does research and development, and comes up with new and new signal equipment so that it can give proper signal, so that uh, एक ही ट्रैक पे दो ट्रेन चली जाती है. All those things can be stopped, accidents can be stopped, and there can be proper management of the trains and the goods trains. So all these things the railway manufactures by itself. So first for us is the engines and good coaches, goods coaches, etc. Now Nowadays, what happens? There are few companies that have started making railway engines, railway coaches on their own. They get demand from outside India also. So they cater to the demands placed by international companies for getting railway engines, either locomotives, that is diesels, or electrical ones. They make state of the art passenger coaches also. So private companies are also in the play. So what happens is, when Indian Railways, they are in a dire demand of railway engines and coaches, then private companies also, they also get an order from the Indian Railways to make few coaches for them, so that the railways can cope up with the demand of the railway coaches especially. There are private companies who produce these things for the railways also nowadays. Indian Railways have three types of railway engines. First one is steam engine, which is obsolete, out of use. Apart from the toy trains or for entertainment purpose, uh, it is kept. For example, if you go to Darjeeling, Shimla, then you have lots and lots of tracks over there laid out in the mountains where steam engine run even today. But that is for limited purpose only. So steam engines, out of date, out of use. Diesel engine is also run in lots of parts of the country, but nowadays being replaced by the electric engines. So the electric engines is, so the main railway for Indian Railways have steam engine, diesel engine, and electric engine. The steam engine have become obsolete now. They are out of use and used only for heritage trains that run for tourism purpose only. Diesel and electric engines are produced at, please, important to remember, Mehijam in Chitranjan Locomotive Works, West Bengal. So read it, the reverse direction. Electric engines, they are in West Bengal, Chitranjan Locomotive Works. Chitranjan Locomotive Works is situated in Mehijam. That is the place name. So electrical engines, Mehijam, Chitranjan Locomotive Works, Bengal. Diesel engines, where are they made? They are made at Varanasi and the locomotive works at Jamshedpur. So diesel locomotives or the diesel engines, they are made at diesel locomotive works. First place is Varanasi, next place is Jamshedpur, but this is a private one, the Tata Locomotive, right? It's a private company, right, producing diesel engines for railways. वाराणसी वाला जो है, that is a government undertaking. Next important thing, passenger coaches. Lots of places are there where passenger coaches are made, but 2, 3 are quite important. First one, passenger coaches are made at Perumbur South, Bengaluru in South, Kapurthala in Punjab, and Kolkata in West Bengal. Right? So two places in South, that is Perumbur and Bengaluru, and one place in Punjab, that is Kapurthala, another one in Kolkata. These are the passenger coaches units that are established by the government and run by the government. We'll do road vehicles in the next session. So students, we stop over here for the day. Thank you, students. Now we come to the next industry, that is road vehicles. A generalized information is given over here because as far as road industry is concerned, for road vehicles, that industry is concerned, mostly the private sector has a lots of play in the uh, road vehicles, except for some heavy vehicles. For example, mining equipment, also, then uh, for road making, some of the specialized vehicles are made. So in the previous era, say 25 years ago, 30 years ago, usually lots of government companies used to make them. But nowadays, you can say road rollers, JCB, even many of the mining equipment also. Mostly the uh, private companies are in the play, right? And government allows them so that uh, we can have an indigenous industry for manufacturing road vehicles so that our dependency on foreign countries for manufacturing of road vehicles is decreased. Of course, if we remember the time when only Bajaj used to produce two-wheelers, uh, Bullet used to produce two-wheelers. Same way, if we go to the passenger car section, there were only two major players. One is Ambassador car, another one is Fiat car, and both these passenger vehicles plus two-wheeler manufacturing units, they ruled the world of India in terms of road vehicles. But then lots of other companies in collaboration with foreign companies, etc., stepped in India, and they, of course, most of them were indigenous plants that were installed, established in India, and they were manufacturing right over here in India, taking the help of some of the technology of the vehicle section from foreign companies. But the vehicles were indigenously built in India. That gave a boost to this industry. So mainly what we see is the private sector, they hold firm over road vehicle manufacturing. So before independence, India used to import parts and then assemble cars for the local market. However, now India has a leading stand in this and made much advancement in this industry. For example, we have lots of car manufacturing. So, for example, if we take the leader of the passenger car section, then we have uh, Maruti as the leader of the passenger car, small cars. Yes, then we have Tata Motors producing enough uh, passenger cars. As far as trucks are concerned, we have Tata itself manufacturing the chassis, engine, etc., and supplying the trucks to India. Same way, Ashok Leyland in the terms of trucks and buses. So we have lots and lots of private sector that has been working since very hard since a long span of years, and then they have developed and they have kept their market so upright up till now that these some of these companies, for example, if you take Tata, if you take Ashok Leyland, many of the passenger car section, we not only cater to the demand of the local, that is of India only, but many of these industry, they produce for exporting it to many of the developing nations that do not have the facility of manufacturing a car manufacturing unit or even a scooter manufacturing. Yeah. Uh, even that is a far cry. Say some of the very poor African countries, they do not even have a cycle manufacturing unit. So the Atlas cycle over here in the segment of the cycles, they manufacture and export on a very huge quantity to these African nations and many of the poor countries of the world, where these facilities are just not imaginable. So we have taken a long stride after independence in building up slowly the road vehicle section factories. Our factories manufacture numerous vehicles, for example, trucks, buses, passenger cars, rickshaw, motorcycle, scooter, cycle, etc. Scooter, say as example, Vespa scooter, when it was made, it was not only made for India only, but it was exported to lots of the South American continent, that is the Latin American countries also. It was exported over there. There today also you'll find lots of scooters, Vespa scooters. Same way, lots of Vespa scooters you'll find in African nations also working today also, right? So rickshaws, if you say, जिसको हम यहाँ छकड़ा बोलते हैं, जो let's say shuttle rickshaws. Yes, we supply this Atul का Atul जो three-wheeler है. Yes, they export uh, these auto rickshaws to Malaysia and the lower part of the China, those countries over there, the Far Eastern countries also. So we see that we have made quite a development in making our road vehicle industry indigenous and fast growing, and we are producing a number of vehicles. The road vehicles are manufactured mostly by private sector that we have discussed. Next, this is important. India ranks fifth in the world. Yes, we have made so much advancement. Of course, it is thanks to the population growth. We have such a lot of huge population that automatically the demand of automobiles keep on going up, vehicles keep on going up, and that is why the producers, they are always in the hurry of making more and more cars and scooters and cycles and all that. So India ranks fifth in the world in the production of commercial vehicle. Commercial vehicle that can be bought and sold. Right. So we have developed so much that today we export the vehicle um, after catering to the needs of our local supply that is inside the country. We export vehicles to other countries also, and not only that, when we export vehicles, we also have to export lots of spare parts needed for that to various countries. India leads, yes, the developing nations in producing tractors. We have numerous companies producing tractors which are not only uh, used in India, but they are exported as well. Cycles at a very large scale, and even export them, both of them, tractors and cycles, they are exported on a very large scale, and they are the units that are manufactured over here, they are very easily sold in India also, and just exported elsewhere also. Shipbuilding and aviation industry is the next one. Shipbuilding is an ancient industry in India. We come to know by the fact that even at the time of Indus Valley civilization, say, we have two, three names over there, that one of the Indus Valley civilization town had a dockyard, and lots of warehouses were excavated over there near the docks, which shows that ships came to this port and left this port. That means export import business was there. Then we also have substantial proof that we were expert ship makers, and our ships went as far as the Arabian countries, and from there and to the eastern coast of Africa, and we did business over there. So we were quite an expert in making the ships in the ancient time, and that is why shipbuilding is an ancient industry in India. Today, even India even produces modern ships. Now, point to remember: Vishakhapatnam, Kolkata, Kochi, Mumbai, and Marmagua produce modern ships. These are important dry ports where ships are produced. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Vishakhapatnam, Kolkata. Vishakhapatnam is uh, on the eastern side, Bay of Bengal. Kolkata on the same side, Kochi, Kerala, Vishakhapatnam, sorry, Marmagua again on the Karnataka side. So Vishakhapatnam, Kolkata, Kochi, Mumbai on the western side, Marmagua. These five names you should be able to remember and mark them on the map. Out of these, please remember Kochi and Vishakhapatnam, they build large size ships also, yes, including even small ports like Bhavnagar, right? We produce small boats and ships, right? So rest of many places all around the coastal areas, there are lots of places building small and big amount of boats, but large ships are mainly produced at two places. One is Kochi, another one is Vishakhapatnam. So please remember this, and we got to mark this on the. Yeah. So these five are important centers for producing ships, whereas Kochi and Vishakhapatnam, out of these five, two of them they produce the large size ships that are used for, say, cargo purpose, for survey purpose, right? Fishing boats, quite large sized fishing boats, all are produced by these two centers, Kochi and Vishakhapatnam. They have dry docks which facilitate this. There are also few important private ports which help in trade and commerce with other countries through these ships. Lots and lots of, because we have the longest coastline on the in the entire Asian countries that are touching the Indian Ocean. So we have lots and lots of small and big ports where trading is done with the help of export and import. India has also made good progress in aviation industry, though not much is said about that, but we should at the same time include ship and airline in one. But aviation industry, we have made good progress, but India manufactures both only helicopters and small aircraft. India is not in the business of producing, or we have not so far made any big commercial airliner of our own carrying goods and passengers. So we have developed up till producing indigenously made helicopters and small aircraft. Aircraft building units are established. Please underline this. These are the three, four where aviation industry is under progress. We make helicopters, small aircraft, etc. They are at Bengaluru, which is the main place, Koraput, Nasik, Hyderabad, Lucknow. These are the five names you should remember by heart and be able to point them on the mark them on the map. These are important units producing spares, parts, and different things concerned with the aviation industry. Right? So Bengaluru, Koraput, Nasik, Hyderabad, and Lucknow. Factories for manufacturing passenger aircraft have not yet started in India. If we remember, even last year we learned that ONGC, which has Bombay High, near Bombay, it has Bombay High producing uh, crude oil, yes, pumping out crude oil. Now, ONGC employs, because that is at sea. Bombay High is at sea, so ONGC uh, people have to be again and again transported from here and there. So Pawan Hunt's helicopters, they indigenously made and they give services over there. These helicopter services, now they have increased the number of helicopters. Many of them are used to uh, transport people to, say, uh, in the hilly area, mountainous areas. Many of them are even occupied for doing uh, services, for example, pilgrimage places, etc., or rescue missions. So lots of indigenously built Pawan Hunt's helicopters are used in these services. But uh, passenger aircraft manufacturing has not yet started in India. So we end our today's lecture over here. Thank you, students.